Y'all, look, there's just a couple things that I wanted to talk about today. Y'all, it is a beautiful, beautiful day here in Dallas, in the Dallas area. So, got some vitamin D today. Excited. I hope that if the weather is really good, the sun is shining where you are, then you get out and enjoy yourself. And soak up some vitamin D today, right? Enjoy the weekend. Right, y'all know it's that fine line right now before it gets too hot to do too much of anything. So for sure, if you have a nice day, right, a nice breeze like we have here, y'all get out there and soak up some of this nice weather. So thank y'all so much for joining. It's just a couple things again that I wanted to talk about today. Hey, DFW Den Radio, thank you for joining. Yeah, just a couple things. So a lot of people underestimate, I'm going to say, the power of emotional intelligence. So when I say the power, meaning the overall impact, because it can be for better or for worse, depending on your awareness level, right? So truly, hey, Ashley, happy Friday. Y'all, so hey, Catherine, how are you? Y'all, just making sure that we have a quick conversations out. There's a couple things on my mind. I'll say that about the true understanding of the impact, the power of emotional intelligence. So, really quickly, a couple stories, a couple conversations that I've had recently. One was the concept of an education space. I'm going to date myself for a minute, but there was a certain point in education where everybody had to watch Harry Wong videos, read the Harry Wong book, The First 100 Days of School. Y'all, if any of this is sounding familiar to you, please let me know. If you're a fellow educator and you're like, yeah, that was the thing. Everybody was on Harry Wong very hard, right? At a certain point. So one thing that I'll be honest, even as a very fresh, very brand new teacher, um, and I got some side eye for it, right? Surprise, surprise. I didn't understand when one of the major pillars, one of the major things that Harry Wong wanted to focus on was making sure that you did not smile during the first 100 days of school. Now, listen, I'm going live right now, yeah. And how many times have I smiled? How much have I smiled during this time already? So immediately I was like, uh-oh, this is going to be a problem. Okay, right. Ashley said yes. Catherine said yes, it was big. And you have to think about there's still a lot of people in the education space that is what they not just came up with, but they're still holding very tightly to. So Ashley says she facilitated the training. Listen, I always had a problem with that one particular part. Yes, it was absolutely amazing for the routines and systems, right? So that the young people just learn that that concept of agency, right? And can definitely run themselves for sure, right? When you're not there. But that was a problem for me. What he said, do not smile in the first 100 days of school. Yeah, I'm a smiley person. I am. So, and sometimes I think I'm funny. So I'm going to laugh, right? So I had a very big, it was a very big moment. But again, this power of emotional intelligence, I was self aware. And I said, you know what? I'm probably going to end up going against the grain, not even on purpose, right? Not being contrary, but just knowing that you're not supposed to smile during the first 100 days of school as a teacher, according to this book, right? We're talking about debunking Harry Wong a bit. And I knew I wasn't going to be successful. I knew I was not going to be successful. So I was like, okay, I have my systems, routines in place. I'm just going to be me. And that is what I did. And so I cannot tell you the number of students, even while I was teaching them, and now that they're adults, they just talked about how just, I guess, my joy that I brought to the classroom because I'm a smiley teacher. And they would say other teachers don't smile, right? That it made them feel absolutely different about math class. They felt absolutely differently about leadership class just because of me being myself. So this power of emotional intelligence, a lot of what's happening, I'm finding with people entering the education space. So not necessarily just younger teachers, but teachers that are just people that are just entering that space. They are looking for and trying to define themselves. Like, what should they do? But it's more common, yes, if they're younger, right, mid to early 20s, for them to still be defining themselves. So imagine that they're trying to balance whatever facade someone may be telling them to balance, plus they're genuinely figuring it out themselves. Yeah. So that is some of, I mean, that's a big piece of the struggle, I would say, a big area where we could do better supporting our people entering the workplace of education, especially our younger educators, because letting them know, no, no, be you. These are the things that are non negotiable, but still make them your own, but be yourself, make them your own. I don't think that they have heard that. I don't think that there's a lot of people having that conversation with them. So imagine the power of, okay, I can really be myself. I can infuse this. You know, I like music. I can bring some more music in to help reinforce some things, right? Yeah, that doesn't mean, just because they're inserting themselves, that doesn't make them any less effective. That doesn't make it any less impactful. So I'm going to use this example as well. For the majority of my almost 20 years in education in the class, I taught math. So this is one of my favorite examples. We have to relax a little bit and understand that there's multiple ways to get the job done, right? If 2 plus 2 is 4, so is 1 plus 3, but so is -7 plus 3. There's a lot of ways to get there. A lot. A lot. All right. Ashley said, yeah, she tossed that by the wayside. What else? That mean doesn't equate to structure or classroom management, right? We're way past that. I think more and more we're understanding and talking about the power and impact of relationships as well. So, you going in there with this guard up. First of all, if it's fake, they know that. It's very obvious. And so that's already setting you up for success opposite, I'll say. Jackie V said, be you always. I say it all the time. Be 100% your authentic self. Yes, but I really think, y'all, that we have to say it more often to the younger educators to let them know and actually help them figure it out, though. Because again, at a certain point, your early to mid 20s, you're still figuring it out. But then pile this responsibility on top of, helping people that are a little bit younger than you figure out themselves and educate them, and this, and this, all these other checklists, lots of checklists that we have in those education spaces. Yes. So also, just again, I said a few things were on my mind. So on Instagram and on LinkedIn, we were conducting a poll for about a week, talking to people about love languages. So what if I told y'all it was kind of a setup? Not because like I'm, can read the future or anything like that, but there's a common trend that year after year I've noticed, especially when it comes to people in education spaces, I'll say. More often than not, the top 1 or 2 love languages for people in educational spaces are acts of service. Then I wondered why, though, right? Right. That's always my favorite question, whether I'm when I was in the classroom or out of, I'm always curious about motivations, right? Like, how did we get here? Why? So my theory is, yes, it's related to love languages. We talked about this, that people tend to give what they want, right? So imagine that the whole career, the whole educational sphere, the whole career of education, it is one based heavily on service. So imagine that you chose a career based on your love language. And so that's what you literally give a lot, right? So a lot of people, that's what they expect back. And so that tends to be literally 1 or 2. I mean, y'all, if I could survey 1 million educators, because it's been done for so many years. Like, I've been slowly gathering data, right? Year after year, like it's still that. Okay. But okay, Ashley said that was hers. But if you go back to the poll, especially since you're on LinkedIn, and you see that by far, and they were all people in education, and by far, love language, acts of service was their top love language, by far. Okay, so that's its own thing. Not only choosing your career based on service, but again, also that's what you wanted back, right? So being careful about that, being careful and intentional about what is the reality? What is the reality of why educators have acts of service as their top love language? Is it really their top love language, or is it that is so much to pile in any given moment, right? That they're looking for some help. They're looking for some help. And so subconsciously, we're going to make sure we answer all those questions that way, right? So just something to think about, because I'm constantly wanting to know why. So I'm taking y'all on this journey with me today. So another thing, the past couple weeks at Holistic Fluency, we've been working on a parent series. So some of the parent series reflections have been a very big deal. I'm smiling because I love the work and revelations that the parents have been having. So we have 3 topics we've been covering. Um, some of them are parent liaisons, so they got a bonus session, but we've covered multiple intelligences, but strictly through the lens of parenting. We've covered love languages as a parent. We've covered conflict resolution. And then in the upcoming week, we're also going to cover communicating with your child. Now, y'all, one thing that I've been so excited about is they're like, okay, Anika, you're talking to us about love languages and conflict resolution through the lens of parenting. But the reality is, and they said, you know what, I can use this with my spouse. I said, true, true. They were like, I can use this. You're making me think about interactions with a friend. You're making me think about interactions with a colleague, a coworker. So the reality is, y'all, whenever we're doing this development of emotional intelligence, right? And we're talking about the power today, the impact that is transferable to any relationship, to any exchange that you have. So I love the fact that they were on it right away, right? I didn't even have to build that up. It was immediately recognizable. They were ready to do it. So some other takeaways that some of the parents have shared is that not just in the parenting space, but we also end up talking about in corporate spaces as well, how much of a mirror the situations are, right? Sometimes we really focus on it ends up being like leadership or management issues. I say leaders because there's really a lot of different leaders in any given space, right? You're a leader in your home. You might be a leader in an organization. You might be a leader at your workspace, in your workspace. So we focus on leaders and not saying necessarily management, but the same thing. The issues are the same, meaning the needs are the same. So I don't want to just say issues and fuss, but the needs are the same in terms of a lack of awareness of self first. So be clear, even with the work with the parents, we talked about their love languages first and made them reflect on different cues, different signals to determine, especially with younger kids, to help determine what their love languages are. Then when we talked about the conflict resolution, some pieces, again, we had them practice first. I gave them, I stirred the pot a bit. I say, y'all get some water, whatever you need to get, because I'm causing some conflict this evening on this session. They were like, what? But we have to practice, right? So I caused some conflict on purpose so we could make sure we reflect and practice and reflect some more, because I need to give you some space to mess up, get the frustration out, because we don't want to be practicing in real time in these emotional intelligence situations. So again, the power of emotional intelligence is recognizing, being able to practice, and then you apply it in real time in any given space. Let's see. Sheila said, lifetime application, life skills, not just for the classroom. 100%, 100%, for sure. Again, and in any exchange, any relationship, any situation. Jackie V said, reflection brings awareness. Yes, it adds to the awareness. It deepens the level of understanding, for sure, for sure. You all. So also one thing that came out of some of the conversation where we're talking about, just leaders, right? Whatever space you're a leader in, is just as we make sure we build awareness, so we're slowly trying to erase the lack of awareness. Many people thought about and reflected on, I never really thought about other people's perspective. I never really thought about how I was coming across. And that is a super common thing, super common issue. So y'all might have heard me talk before. If you've listened in on a few of the lives, I say we have a perspective problem here, right? I was having a conversation even yesterday where a lady, she's the owner of a company, and she was talking about where she recognizes that she has to interact and she has to differentiate is the reality and interact with her employees differently because they all have, different motivations, different things that they prefer. And I told her, I applauded her. I said, that's great that you recognize that and you're doing that. I said, but I still have a little bit of a challenge and pushback for you. She was like, what? I said, no, you're doing well. That's great. I said, that's great because a lot of people honestly don't even do that. They want a broad brush to paint everything with in hopes that it applies to everybody, right? They want a one size fits all approach. And that's literally not the reality. So I told her, no, it's a big deal. I'm definitely commending you. I said, but I can tell that you're open to growth and to really connecting and growing your employees. So might I add something, right? So my comment to her was making sure that she does challenge them in their perspective because she's kind of tending to their perspective only. And that's where we kind of end up in some of those situations where it's a very self-centered viewpoint that many people operate from, and they're literally unable to see the impact and just overall effect on someone else. So that is why, again, we have to continue to practice these multiple points of view. So even if it's just kind of, story like, just scenario situation based at first, but then really getting into, okay, no, this is what's going on at the company. Let's talk about this. So if we make this decision, how is it impacting this customer's journey? How is it going to impact the accounting department? If we make this, so being able to really point those things out because it's necessary. It's necessary. A lot of conflict comes from a lack of awareness, right? So conflicts are disagreements. They're going to happen. So I don't want to say, no, we're trying to avoid conflict because that's not the case. In a lot of situations, conflict is needed. However, there's still certain ground rules that we should be able to follow, and there's certain things that should happen. There's certain steps that should happen in the process, and one of those big steps being perspectives. What perspectives are in play, right? And just really building it out to understand all of the parties that are involved and that might be impacted as well. And again, this is for leaders, and everybody is a leader because, again, you're a leader in your home, in different organizations. I know some of y'all have different organizations that are on, and in your workspace. So, okay. Y'all, so another thing I've been thinking about, again, so this power, this impact, this influence of emotional intelligence that I'm talking more to the corporate space a little bit now, a little bit, but still also any space, because oftentimes we have, I'll say for the front line, which education side would be the classroom worker, right? Your classroom educator. In the corporate space, it may be a customer service rep, a sales rep, right? There's so much paperwork, and some people call them metrics, some people call them rubrics for all these things they should do and all these different levels of evaluations in their spaces. However, when it comes to leadership, and if leadership isn't going so well, there's not the same criteria, there's not the same adjustments, there's not the same metrics and rubrics that are fully aligned and fully in place in a lot of leadership coaching type roles. So that's a part of the conversation I have a lot with not just corporations, but anyone in a coaching space, even education, besides what is on, excuse me, you all, besides what may be on an instructional coach's rubric or principal's rubric, there's some gaps. There always seems to be some gaps. And so it's more about making, I call them your KPIs, your key performance indicators, making them come to life. Y'all, sometimes the KPIs are not super clear. And maybe it's more of a checkbox type thing, just a checklist. Did you do this at any given point? How often did you do it? But it's not a true system of planning for monitoring and inspecting and adjusting. One of the biggest things, and adjusting, right? So one thing I want to be clear about is while we're talking about people in leadership roles, one thing I've been reflecting on a lot because it keeps showing up. So this is a theme. I said, okay, I'm supposed to talk about this a bit more than that. We have to be super intentional about whether or not someone is a good individual contributor and if they want to be promoted. Let me tell you why that's important. Because the tendency is, and I don't care what space, education, corporate, and organization, if someone is doing well at their job, what tends to happen? They get promoted. Yeah. They get promoted and get promoted usually to a space where they're like over a team doing the job that they used to do. So here's the deal, Pickles. What first needs to happen and should have happened prior to really anywhere near a promotion is we talk about studying and supporting. Did we ask whether or not, are we aware? Did we see whether or not they wanted to get promoted? Some people love their role and that's it. They love the role they're in. They do it well. It's because they love it. That might not be their goal to get promoted, right? That's part one. Part two, to be a great individual contributor / to now lead a team of people doing the job you previously did, two different skill sets, two absolutely different skill sets. So the reality is often people get promoted without the necessary bridge, without the necessary connection of skill sets in between. Because think about it, is first of all, it's a mindset thing that has to happen first. Because if you worked hard to be an individual contributor to get to that point, you're used to doing what you need to do for yourself to make sure that you meet your goals, that you meet your quarterly reviews, right? That your evaluation goes well. So it's no longer just you. You're leading a team now. So yeah, you were used to getting the shine, right? You were used to being a really amazing and bright spot in the company, on the campus, in the organization. But guess what? Now the expectation is, even if it's not said quite this way, if you're promoted to, again, lead a team in a space that was, of people that are doing the job that you previously do, the expectation is you teach them how to do it. It's not often said quite like that. They give you another list of these are the goals we need. But think about it. Wouldn't it make sense to basically duplicate your efforts and to multiply your efforts so that it's not just that one bright spot anymore, right? That we have a whole organization that is brilliantly shining. We have a whole campus that is brilliantly shining, right? You have to be able to duplicate and multiply. There's a book called Multipliers, right? That you multiply your results, you duplicate your results. That really is the goal. And I don't think people talk about it enough quite that way. So that also adds to the disconnect and the transition as people get promoted. Okay. Yeah. So again, those are just a few things that were on my mind. I don't know if I'm tap dancing on some toes today. If y'all can co-sign and you agree, yeah, I've seen this as you're reflecting on different situations, maybe when different people got to different spaces, right? Different levels in different spaces. But again, it's a very important thing to realize. It's really one of mine. If the adolescents have my heart, right? Y'all know we're working on and relaunching the recipes rite of passage for them. Then the other side is their organizational culture, especially coaching coaches, coaching leaders, because it's a lot of things that aren't happening that should be. And there's some things that are going okay, and it really could be going a lot better, but it's not as hard, right? It's more about the planning. And again, just really figuring out where do we have the most impact. Okay. So if you need some help with that, you know what, Anika, we need to have some more conversation about it, right? Y'all know where to find me here, right? Holistic Fluency on, where am I? On Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn, Anika S. Seals. Y'all, these are my favorite topics to discuss, because again, just making sure people truly understand the power and relevance and impact behind it, because it's way too big of a deal. Way too big of a deal. Okay, Sheila Seal says that multiplication process you described is a critical piece and makes so much sense, but it's a miss. It's a miss on a lot of people. Many people feel that they still have to shine. So if we're talking about you're supposed to lead a team of people that are doing your previous job, but you still feel like you need to shine, what does that do to team morale? What does that do to team culture? What culture? Right? You're still in a very braggadocious, very braggy state, right? You're still in a very self centered state. Then the team is not going to function as a team. The team's not going to team. It's not going to do what it can do. So, again, we always have to start with that awareness and your awareness first, like I say, as a leader, to understand, your strengths, your areas of improvement, to understand what motivates you, and then we start looking at the team and those that we support, right? Because we leverage that to get better. But again, if people out here not understanding that they need to duplicate, that they literally got the job, they were promoted, they're expected to duplicate these results, to multiply these results, then it's a miss. We messed up before we got started. We're going to miss the mark. We're going to miss the mark. All right. So, y'all, that's it. Thank y'all for joining, for just some things that were on my mind about the power of emotional intelligence. If you missed the live in its entirety, we had some good things. We had some good things. We had to stop and sip some water, let it marinate a couple times. Please do catch the replay and put hashtag replay. All right. Thank y'all so much. Bye-bye.